Welcome to the third part out of my tutorial with the title UFT and ALM Introduction. In this video I want to convey a little knowledge about how to create VB-script and include in them UFT objects. First let us start UFT. It's important that you start first UFT and then the Internet Explorer because sometimes UFT has a problem to recognize object in the Internet Explorer when you started before UFT has been started. This window, the add-in manager, is too very important because depending on which environment you want to automate, you have to select different add-ins. For example, we want now to automate the Internet Explorer, so a web application. That means that we have to choose the web add-in. When you want to automate a Microsoft application, for example, a .NET application or something else, you have to choose .NET or WPF, so Windows Presentation Foundation. When you want to create a Java application, choose simply Java. So we start now UFT. This is the default view of UFT, and before we create anything, we have to make a connection to ALM. More information about this connection I show in the other video, but you see here, I make a logout. I have here my username and password, the server URL with QC bin, that's very important. QC is an older version of ALM, can connect, and then choose your project from the domain. Your domain, your project, and then login. We want now to create a new business component. We make that over file, new business component. You see here we have three different choices. One is keyword GUI-component. There we can capture objects with a viewer, so we can hover with our mouse over objects and capture them. In a scripted GUI-component, we have to script the things ourselves. In the API component, we can test an API service. We want to create an API component, so we can say test component and select now the location, default location, and an application area. So how I said, an application area manage our business components. We create it. So here's the view. And now we want to capture objects. How we make that? For this iteration, there is something called an object spire. That's here the head with the sunglasses. We select it. And with the first button, we can now choose objects. First of all, we have to start Internet Explorer and open our page, Amazon. Switching, select. And in the first tutorial, I said that we want to search something. So we capture this web edit. You see, when I hover over the text field, over the web edit, how it's called here, over the web edit, that's a small border. You see it? Okay. We select it. And now UFT has recognized this object as a web edit. So we can add it to our local repository, add object to repository. And you see now the little box. This box means that this object has already been added to the repository. We add the second object, our search button. You'll see the border again. And UFT has recognized that as a web button. You too see that here the browser and the page has already been recognized as stored in the repository, but not the web button. So we can add it to the repository. But before we are creating our command, I want to give you more information about the constructor of such a command. And then we have the object hierarchy. So a command is a bit like this. We have on the higher level a browser object. A browser object is simply, yes, your Internet Explorer, your Chrome browsers, and so far. This object is already marked with the magnifier. On the second level, we have a page. A page have not to be something like each page you have visited, but it could be some more like a folder. So I can say I have here my login page and everything was had to do with login, I can put it in that. The last is our third level, and there we have all these objects like a web button, a web edit, image, and so far. Now, how we create some command. We have our browser, bracket open, quotation mark, then the name of the browser from the name which is listed in the object repository, then quotation mark and close the bracket. Important is that you write a point, the dot notation. Then a hierarchy level under the browser is a page. So page, bracket, and so far. Important the dot notation. Last, our object self, our web button. Could be anything, web button, web edit, and so far. The last thing is our action. By web button, it's clear that we make a click. By web edit, we would make a set a text. The finish command looks like this: browser.page.webbutton.click. I think that's easy, or not? But remember, when we would write that always like this, there's a lot of code. So we can make an abbreviation. And this abbreviation could look like this. We create an object with refer to the browser and the page. So we create an object, set object web browser. So we create an object, and this object refer to the browser and to a specific page. And now when we want to fire a click event on a button, we say only object web browser because it's referred to the page, dot web button, the specific web button, dot click. Let's now make that in our example. So we go first to our object repository. Here you see the difference between an object repository manager with you can manage some shared object repository and our local object repository. Now you see here the hierarchy, the page, the website, no, the browser, the page, and least our button and our field. First, we want to set something in the text field. So we take it, drag and drop it, and we have now here the hierarchy how I showed in the example. We set now an object, go to the beginning of the page and say set object web equal browser and then the page. The object web refers now to the browser and the page. When we want now to set something in the field keywords, how it's called here, we say object control space is autocomplete dot web edit bracket open, auto-completing because there's only existing one item, close. Important is that this name is equal to this name here in the object repository, dot set. Then we can say DVD player. So and then we want to fire the button. So we say object web dot web button, curly brackets, autocomplete, same name, dot click. That's all. Now with the function key 11 we can start the debugger. So function key 11. It's important that you have only one tab open it. Otherwise it could be that UFT has a problem to recognize some object. And run. Set object. Write DVD player, how you can see, into the text field. and then click, and our search is started. One time again, set the object refers to the browser and to the page. Object.webEdit, which refers to the specific page. WebEdit.set the text, and then the refer.webButton, webButton go, our name from the object repository, dot click.